Welcome back to the Weekly Juice Podcast. As always, Ryan and Corey here with another episode for you. Today we have episode 22. We have guest Henry Washington, who is an investor from Northwest Arkansas and has accumulated over 60 units in just about 3 years between flipping and buy and hold rentals. And in today's episode, we discuss strategies that he lives by to find great deals. And if you want to look him up prior to the episode or as you're going through, you can find him on Instagram at Independence Realty Group.
Yeah, Henry we're talking about flipping, we talk about lead generation, we talk about finding deals, we talk about essentially BRRRR investing, apartments, single family. This guy does it all. And he has a really good system for bringing deals to him. And that is the most important thing about real estate investing when you get to a certain level. People are going to take so much from this. And I think this type of SEO lead generation can apply in almost any market. So let's jump in.
Absolutely. Let's jump in. If you enjoyed what you've heard so far in our previous episodes, please subscribe, rate, like, and review on Apple Podcasts. You can also find daily content from us at Weekly Juice Pod on Instagram. And happy to bring you today's episode. Let's go.
Let's do it.
All right. So Henry, thanks so much for joining us today. We're super excited to have you on. As Corey and I mentioned a little bit previously when we were talking, we've studied up on your story. We heard you on Bigger Pockets and also on Coach Carson's podcast. So we're inspired by you, and our audience and listeners, I assume, will be as well. So if you could just kind of give us a background on you, where you're from, what you like to do, what you specialize in, and then how you got into real estate.
I actually spent most of my career in the Walmart real estate department. Before I even knew that I wanted to get into real estate personally, that's just where I spent my career doing data analytics for them. But yeah, I got into real estate because I had a great job. I was single for a long time out here, and then met my wife and got married pretty quick. And your priorities change when you've got a family versus when it's just you on your own. And I was doing a whole lot of spending and not a lot of saving, and then realized that once I got married, that wasn't going to work out well, because women like security, and I sure didn't have much of it from a savings perspective. So started really looking into I've always been the kind of person who was looking for little side hustles and things like that. And so I was Googling side hustles and kept coming across articles about real estate and videos on real estate, and just thought to myself, that seems like something I could do. And so I didn't really know what that meant. I just wasn't scared of it, I guess. I wasn't scared of the idea. It didn't seem, a lot of people look at real estate as something risky because of tenants and what they can do. And that never crossed my mind. I just started seeing articles about real estate and thought, yeah, for sure, I could be a landlord. And so I then I talked to a friend of mine who worked at Walmart at the time, who is also a commercial real estate broker. And she brought me a box of books, and I picked up Rich Dad Poor Dad out of that box. And once I read that, I was like, I for sure can do this. And so that book just really helped shift my mindset into one of a saving mindset. Before I was more in a spending pattern. And so that really taught me to just pay myself first, start saving money, because you need money to invest. It doesn't always have to be your money, but the money needs to come from somewhere. And so once I started changing my mindset about money, I just really started telling people, hey, I'm a real estate investor. I hadn't done a deal or a transaction or anything to be an investor, but I just wanted to put that out there to the world that I'm an investor, because that was I just knew that this was something I was going to do. It was something I was going to use to better my life. Everything I read and watched and absorbed about real estate just made me excited. So I knew it was something that I wanted to be successful at. And so I think that's been a valuable lesson for me to be able to tell people, is just put that energy out there. If you want to be an investor, tell people you're an investor. Like when people ask me what I do, I tell them that first. I have a day job still, but I don't lead with that. I lead with, I'm a real estate investor. I flip houses. I buy rental properties, and I also have this other job.
Yes. Well, people start to associate you with what you talk about and what you put out there into the universe. So I think that if there's a step one, right, and where you want to be, it's pretty cool that you started with that and you're like, this is who I am, even before you became that, and then you became it. So,
right, absolutely.
Yeah,
it's awesome. So what does your current portfolio look like, just to paint the picture for listeners?
My whole portfolio is a mix of single families, duplexes, and small apartment buildings. My largest apartment building is a 12 unit. I have a 12 unit. I have an 8 unit. I have a quadplex, and then I have several duplexes and a few single families. But it totals about 60 doors. Awesome. And I'd say about 25 of those doors are in a partnership. So I'm 50-50 on those. And then the rest, I'm 100%.
So Corey and I are entering a partnership here too. And it's interesting. We hear people that, sometimes investors go in by themselves, some going with partners. What made you jump in with a partner for specific deals?
Yeah, the partnership came to pass because when I was first getting started and I first started marketing, I had my gap was that I don't have a construction background. And so like I could find leads and find deals, but it was hard for me to know like what to look for when I saw properties when I first started. It was hard to understand what it might cost me to rehab a property. And so kind of how I filled that gap was I met a guy at his name is Dustin. He's my business partner. I met him at our local real estate investors association, and we just became friends quickly. And so I would ask him to, when I get a lead for a property, he was into real estate as much as I was. So I'd say, hey, you want to come look at a house with me? And he'd kind of point out things I should look for because he has a strong construction background. And it worked out well because there was a couple of deals I was able to partner up and just assign those to him. And he would buy them and keep them as rentals or flip them. And so it worked out for both of us. There was a win-win situation there. I would find good deals. He would buy them. And then that gave us some familiarity with each other. We got to know each other and understand that our goals were in alignment. Like our long-term goal is buy and hold investors. And so at one point he approached me and said, hey, why don't we just partner up, go 50-50 on the cost, right? Because I was spending all the money on the lead generation and finding the deals, and then he was buying them. And so we just changed it up to where we were 50-50 on what it costs to find the deals. We were 50-50 on like going to look at the deals and putting them under contract, and then 50-50 on whether we flip it or rent it from a profit standpoint. And so it worked out well because we were comfortable with each other. We knew the kinds of deals we like to buy, and it just kind of developed into a partnership.
Cool. So it sounds like, Henry, you kind of parlayed each other's skill sets in a way where you knew that you were really good at finding these deals, and you knew that this person had a background in being able to, I guess what you were doing is assigning them. Can you just talk about the process of assigning a property? Because it sounds like this is something that people could do when they first get started without a lot of knowledge of the actual buy and hold game.
Yeah, it is. I'd make sure people check with their states and make sure that it's a legal practice where they are. In Arkansas, where I'm at, it's super gray, and so I don't do assignments anymore because I can just close on everything. So if what I do now is I buy them, I close on them, and then I might just sell them as is.
Got it. Okay.
More like a wholesale than a wholesale.
Yeah.
But at that time, it worked out well because we had a partnership and we were working together, and so it was a whole lot easier to do. When you talk about wholesaling now, it's more people putting things under contract and then going and finding a buyer. I was kind of walking into the deal with my buyer, right? And so way less risk that way. And it's better for the sellers too, because they know their deal's going to close. You don't want to put people in a situation where they're putting things under contract that they can't close on. I was finding the leads, and then he would go with me, we'd look at it. He'd tell me, hey, here's what I can pay for this property. I'd put it under contract and then assign that contract to him and he'd close on it.
So you mentioned you find the deals, and to paint a little bit more of a picture for everybody, you have a background in tech. Is that correct?
Yeah, I do, yes.
Can you dive into that and specifically how that has helped you generate leads and kind of set you apart from other investors?
Yeah, I've been in tech in some way, shape, form, or fashion my whole day job career, from software development to data analytics. It's more on the analytics side now. So the analytics side helps with being able to know, numbers aren't personal, right? It's just they are what they are, right? And once you have your numbers, you stick to them. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So having an analytics background kind of helps me understand that, it's not personal, it's just numbers. So when you're making offers, it's easy for me to explain to people why I have to make the offers that I'm making, because it's pure numbers. It also helped me understand just having a basic understanding of what SEO or, search engine optimization is on the front side and how that works, and knowing that it takes a long time to get your SEO ranked. And so I do Google AdWords campaigns for my website. I didn't build them. That's not my strong suit, but having the tech background gave me enough understanding to know that I need to go pay somebody to do that who's really good at it. Because it's expensive, but you want it to work. If you're going to spend the money, you want it to work, right? And so I paid a company to build my AdWords campaign, and it's still one of the best places where I get the best leads usually from my website.
Awesome. So if you could, so just to reiterate what exactly you do with SEO to generate leads, how can you just explain to people how you drive leads to your website in more of
Sure. Sure. My website has multiple places where there's forms available to the end user. So there's always a place for them to fill out a form to tell you a little bit more about that property. But how I drive traffic to it is I pay, like I said, for a Google AdWords campaign. And what that is it's when you Google something, usually the first 4 or 5 entries say ad next to them, right? And those are people who are paying for those clicks, right? And so you generate those ads by certain keywords. So the types of words or phrases that people are typing into Google, right? If your AdWords campaign captures those keywords or those phrases, your ad will appear at the top of the page. And they can click on your page and see, what information you have. And then there's always a place for them to fill out a form. As long as they fill out a form, I'll immediately get an email. There's short forms that just say, hey, what's your name and what's the address, right? And what's the phone number to reach you at, or email address. And then there's longer forms that have a lot more pointed questions about the property. So if you get a long form, that's usually a pretty motivated seller because they took the time to fill out more information. Whereas if they just did a short form, they might be just kind of not sure how all this works and are just feeling it out, but any lead is a good lead, in my opinion. You're going to learn something. So, I call every lead.
When you were first getting started, did you ever use any snail mail campaigns?
Yeah. I do. Direct mail is my other source of lead generation. I only do direct mail and my website. That's really all I have going.
So what does your direct mail campaign look like? Do you send X amount of letters, and maybe what does one of those letters look like?
Yep. So I do yellow letters now. Actually, I just switched the color. I'm trying a different color besides yellow to see how that works out. I just did that this month, so we'll see how that goes. I do letters, yellow paper, red writing, and I keep my message pretty simple. I was doing postcards, and then I switched to letters because I saw a higher return rate, and I made some money. So it costs more to do letters, and so I'm willing to spend more to do the letters. But by all means, if somebody's, postcards work fine. right? Don't be discouraged by doing postcards. But my postcards and my letters say the exact same thing. It's just, hi, my name's Henry. I want to buy your house at 123 Main Street. There's no realtor fees. I pay all your closing costs. Close when you want to. Make no repairs. Call or text me at this number. And then at the very bottom, I make sure I put a blurb that says, I found your information through county records, which is public information, just to kind of weed out the people who are just trying to figure out how you got their information.
Right.
But that's really it. Like it doesn't say anything more than that. It's short and sweet. I did that because when I was looking into like what types of messages to put on the letters, I was realizing as I was like flipping through like all the images, I was only reading the ones that were short. And so I was like, cool, I'll make sure that mine is a short message. And short and sweet, man. And to the point, I haven't tested anything else. Some people do like a stock Google image of the house on their letters. Some people have way more words. It's a more personal message. I have no idea if those things work better than what I do. I've only done this one message because it seems to work, and I'm just kind of sticking with my guns.
I think it's key to point out to people that lead generation is like probably the single most important aspect of real estate investing, depending upon your niche. But so having these leads come to you and having you developed a system for them, it seems to potentially give you an advantage. I'm curious as to what niche you're looking at and what sellers are potentially targeting.
Sure. Yeah. So for me, I do a couple of things. I generate my lists and I use PropStream. I don't know if you guys have heard of PropStream, but it's a monthly subscription. I think it's like $95 a month. But PropStream, it's got access to, it's really like a great graphical user interface, so you can kind of zone in on where you want to target. It's great for like vacant properties. It's got a whatever algorithm in the background has kind of identified what are vacant properties and what aren't. It's got MLS listings on there. You can filter out the MLS listings, so you're only looking at stuff that's not on the market. But it's great because it lets you kind of visually build your list, and then you can export that list to Excel or however, you can do CSV or XLS spreadsheets, and then you can manipulate that list even further if you like to. But I found that to be great. I get a lot of hits off of my PropStream list. I can send you guys kind of a link to PropStream after this if you want to share it with people. I think if you use my link, you'll get a discount. But I use PropStream and I use ListSource. ListSource, obviously, a lot less visual, but you're going to pay per lead or pay per name on ListSource, whereas PropStream you'll pay just a monthly fee, right? So either way, it's going to cost you money. It's just what's more cost effective for you. But those are the two sources I use to build my list, and then I combine those lists and I send those to. I have a local print shop that sends my mail. But as far as who I'm targeting, man, for me, it's all about equity and motivation, right? You need both of those things to have a deal. If you don't have those things, they don't need you, right? They can go call a realtor. And so how I filter for equity on PropStream, you can just set a dollar threshold. They need to have X amount of dollars in equity or a percentage. Same thing in ListSource. You can filter for dollars or percentage of equity. And then when I first got started, I was filtering for motivation by using age, just assuming that people who were older have probably more distressed properties because they can't keep up with them like they used to. And that seemed to work well, but now I don't even filter for age. For me, it's just about equity. You never know what somebody's motivation is. And so I'm willing to spend a little more money to market to people who just have equity and who might not have motivation that I'm filtering for, but I kind of weed that out through them calling me. So pure equity at this point.
Yeah.
Is what I'm doing.
I got one for, I think that's a really good point, and I didn't even know that some of these programs existed for that type of lead generation, that type of marketing to directly pinpoint you to some of these properties. So I think that's like super valuable information. The question that I have
So,
for you is,
so when I use PropStream, I'm filtering for equity and vacant properties using if you've got a lot of equity in a vacant property, then you might have some motivation to sell that property. And then on list source, it's just pure equity.
cool. So what would your goal be then if you have these 60 units or so, and you're buying most of them to buy and hold, correct? What would be your, like, kind of some of your future goals with it? Do you have a certain number that you want to get to? Do you have a certain cash flow number that you're like,
Yeah.
that you're
Uh, you
comfortable
know, I wish I was that sophisticated. I know a lot of people are like, I know I need to get X amount of properties, and that's my number. Like, man, for me, I just love it so much. Like,
That's all you need.
I'm just going with it, man. At some point, I'll say, hey, that's enough. I've been toying around with the idea of, once I hit 100 doors, maybe I'll sell half and pay off the other half, and then have, 50 free and clear properties. I'll entertain that idea when I get to 100 doors, but maybe I'll just keep them all. I don't know, man. Right now, I'm just going until I feel like I've hit enough.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
What would your advice be for somebody who's like, this resonates with me? How do I get started doing what Henry does?
Yeah, man. I think real estate's such a, like, there's so many things you can focus on. And so what I tell new investors is, I'm like, man, focus on learning what a good deal is in your market. Like, go figure that out, right? Get around other investors and figure out what they're paying for properties, right? What's a good deal look like? Go to RIA meetings, a lot of it's virtual now, but meet other investors, ask them to tell you about like what their best deal was. Investors love talking about their good deals, man. Like, man, I'll run off at the mouth all day about, like,
I was about to say,
awesome
jumped in my next question.
Yeah.
right? Get them talking, right? And then you'll learn about like what a good deal is in that market. And then once you've got a good understanding for like, this is what a good deal looks like in my market, then go figure out, like, only focus on, like, how are you going to find good deals, right? Most markets are going to require you to find off-market deals for them to be good deals. There's very few markets where you're just going to hop on the MLS and find good deals, right? So, like, the easier it is to find a deal, the less likely that that's actually a deal. So, like, you need to figure out, like, what method you're going to use to find off-market deals. Some people are great at cold calling. Great, do that. Some people are great at direct mail marketing. Awesome, do that. Like, figure out what deal finding strategy fits your personality traits, and then implement one, right? And go find a deal. Once you get a deal on the line, like, the rest of that stuff, you'll figure out. Like, you'll figure out how you're going to finance it. You'll figure out who's going to work on it. Like, you'll be so motivated to close on that deal that you'll go figure that stuff out later. Like, that stuff, that stuff to me is less important. You'll spend a bunch of time figuring all that stuff out on the front side that doesn't matter until you have a deal anyway, right? But, like, you make money in real estate on the buy. So focus all your time on figuring out how to do that right, how to buy a property right. What's that price point? And then, like, if it's a good deal, man, you'll be able to make money on it.
Somebody will
buy it, right? You call me in my market with a good deal, you don't know how to buy, like, we'll figure it out, right? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
What numbers do you hold yourself accountable to when you're considering a good deal?
Yeah, for me as a rental, I'm looking for single families. I want cash flow of $200 a door, just because I'd rather focus my attention on finding multis. Multis, I want $100 a door net. I'm talking after all expenses, and I budget. Obviously, you've got your mortgage, you've got your insurance, and you've got your taxes, but you've also got maintenance, right? You've got capital expenses, because things are going to go bad, right? Roofs wear out, HVACs go out, right? Vacancy, because you're going to have turnover, right? Somebody's going to move out and it's going to take you some time, right? So I try to budget at least, I want a month of vacancy budgeted for. And so And then property management, I budget for that too. I self-manage, but at some point I'm not going to want to. And so I want to know that my deals are going to make me money even when I turn them over. So I've got, after the mortgage, the taxes, the insurance, and then I budget another 30% for those expenses I just talked about. If after all of that on a single family, I'm making a couple $100 a month, or on a multi, I'm making $100 at the door, for me, that works. Now, obviously, I make more than that on the properties because, like I said, I self-manage, and you don't always, like, your maintenance doesn't always get spent every year, but I budget it aside, and then at the end of the year, I'll pay myself that money back.
Managing 60 rent units seems to me like it could be a lot of work, but I'm curious how much time you spend self-managing it. How much time does that take up for you?
Yeah, so 12 of those doors, 16 of those are about an hour away. So I have a property manager for those, but the rest I manage. And it's not bad, man. You just have to put some processes in place that kind of fit your lifestyle. For me, it's open house showings. So I pick a couple days a week when I have vacancies where I'm going to show the property. And that's when I ask people to show up. If they can't make it, they can't make it. Like, I understand that doesn't work for everybody's schedule, but my schedule is what's important. Like my life and my time is important. So I do open house showings. Everybody shows up at the same time, and I'm not there very long. I'm usually only there for like 30 minutes. If you can't make it, that's good for me, right? Because then it lets me know that you might not be somebody I want to rent to anyway, right? Like if you're showing up late. So yeah, that's what I do, open house showings, because showing properties takes the most time, I find, and then going and looking at properties, like when you get leads, like that part takes some time. But other than that, the rest of it's pretty easy. I'm not a handy guy. Like, so with 60 units, 60 units are one unit. Like if something breaks, I'm not the guy. Like I can't.
Yeah.
So, like, it doesn't matter to me. I got to call the guy. So it's just a matter of like,
if you can be the first call to call somebody else, it makes it easier.
Yeah. You shoot me a text message and I'm just forwarding that text message to the guy who can go fix it, right? Or my property management system has a work order thing in there. If they fill that out, it sends me an email. I just forward that email to the guy who can go fix it. So 60 or one, it doesn't matter to me. I can't fix a thing. Somebody else has to.
That's a great segue. So you mentioned a property management system, right? Not a specific property management, but like, what system do you use, and how does it keep you organized and efficient? We always want to know how people like run their machine.
I use Cozy. It's free for landlords. COZY.co is the website. I use it. Free for landlords. It works well. Like I said, I require in my lease that everybody pays their rent in Cozy. When I first got started, I was, people were mailing me checks, or I was going to pick up money, and I realized, like, if someone's not paying you in a system, you've given yourself two chores, right? You got to go get the money, and then you got to go take the money to the bank. And so I just cut all that out by having a system. I make them pay in the system. It goes directly into my bank account, and I don't have to worry about it. And then all the tracking is there. Like, I have a history of everybody's payments. Like, it's just cleaner for me. So that's what I require of my tenants.
That's awesome. So it's kind of a two-part question here, but we're joining here in a partnership, and we're talking about, we formed an LLC, and then now we're like, all right, we're searching for a bank, right? So we can figure out kind of who's going to run what side of the business, and specifically finances. Do you have an LLC with your partner, and how do you guys specifically, you don't have to give too much information, but like maybe some guidance on the banking side of what you think is a good idea for someone to do?
Yeah. I have an LLC for my partnership, and then an LLC for my own business. This is my partnership business. That's why it's different than my Independence Realty Group, which is on the wall. That's my personal LLC. So
you might have to ask your what did you say? It was your sister, by the way, or is it who made that for you? We might need one of those if she's good on the
work. No, for real. I'll hook you up, man. Shoot me the logo, and she'll put something.
That's awesome. Appreciate that. Anyway, sorry, I was just looking at that thing back there.
So two LLCs, and then from the banking, situation, are you talking about like financing deals, or or like how you manage your money as a partnership?
Second part.
Yeah. So for us, what we did was in the operating agreement, we kind of have, we set up like thresholds, right? Because you need money to manage the business every day. So any money the business makes, it just sits in that account. And then once that account hits a certain amount of money, like we'll pay ourselves out quarterly based on how many properties we have. So we say, if we have X amount of properties, we need to keep this much money in the account to cover expenses. Anything over that, we pay ourselves, 50-50 on what's
Quarterly
extra.
though.
Right. Quarterly, right? And so you set those thresholds, right? So for us, we haven't hit those thresholds yet because we're buying distressed properties, and that takes some time to fix them up and stabilize them and get that money built. So I'd say it took us almost a year to get to the point to where we didn't have to keep funding that account out of our other business. Just to keep that steady, because like I said, you're buying distressed properties, nobody's paying rent while you're fixing it up, right? But now most of our units are rented out, and so it's just we don't have to fund the account anymore. We're still rehabbing a couple of our larger properties right now, but once those properties are fully rehabbed and rented out and we're fully stabilized, then we'll probably be at that threshold where we'll start paying ourselves. But we took care of that on the front side by making sure we ironed out, like, if we have this many properties, this is how much money we want to keep in our account. And then from there, after that, every quarter we'll pay ourselves.
Gotcha. So when you buy properties, you have a vacancy period that you're expecting it to be vacant for, because you know that all these properties are going to require some sort of rehab, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Cool. So do you have like a kind of a threshold, so to speak, of how big the rehabs need to be and how long they take for you? Because I think that would probably vary between your properties, right?
Yeah, no, it varies from property to property, and I'm fortunate that I have not only a great business partner, but he's now started his own renovation company.
Oh, cool.
So he runs crews and does our rehabs.
That's a good guy to know.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so, he puts together a timeline and when you think it'll be done. And then we're usually on interest only payments during that time anyway. So it keeps our costs low. And then as we turn units, we put people in them. And so like we have a 8-unit complex where we would rehab a building, stick 2 people in it, right? Rehab a building, stick 2 people in it, right? So your costs are lower and lower as you
did 2 at a time.
Right. Yeah, right.
Cool.
Very cool. So if you could, I know we talked, not to circle too far back, but we talked lead generation. If you could just dive into a specific deal, maybe it's your favorite deal that either you did direct mail or lead gen through your website, just to share with people kind of the whole process of how you landed the deal, closed on it, and then, what numbers
came of it. Yeah.
Sure. We'll do.
You got a lot going through your
head. We'll do a few scenarios. So I'll do a flip, a rental, and then I'll do like a wholesale, right? When we didn't do a rehab on, right? And so we'll talk through this flip I just completed. I did a flip. I got the lead from my website, so they found me. We bought the house, so they filled out the form on my website. Went and took a look. It was a pretty distressed property, had some foundation issues, which was their motivation, right? Because it was going to be super expensive for them to fix, and they just wanted to cut their losses and go. And so their motivation was expensive foundation issues. So I put the property under contract for $90,000. No, $80,000. I bought it for $80,000. It's a 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,650 square foot house on 2 acres. I went, and since I'm not, normally I can walk a property and just kind of eyeball it and know how much it's going to cost me. But when it comes to foundation stuff, I don't do that because that's not my specialty. So I called a guy, he came out there and gave me a quote on what it would cost to fix. And so I kind of had, that was my clause was, hey, I want to buy it for this much pending the foundation issues costing around this range, right? And so he goes, he takes a look, he told me what it's going to cost. We were all good. I closed at, like I said, I paid 80. I spent 60 on the rehab, probably pretty close to 60. That included the foundation. And we closed next week. I was able to sell it for $230. Was the sale. So
that's $70,000 right there in profit on that flip. I mean, minus the buying cost and some of those things, but just under 70.
Some closing costs and some realtor fees, right? But yeah, looking at about a 70K profit, which is a great deal. Like I said, it came through on the website, so I didn't have to, other than set up the Google AdWords campaign that I did 3 years ago, I didn't have to do anything to find that deal. It came to me.
Just to put into perspective, that $70,000, people make that in 1 year. You did that on one deal.
Yeah.
So we talk numbers all the time, but to put that into perspective, I know plenty of people our age and maybe a little bit younger, even older, their salary is literally $70,000. So I think it's incredible that based off the system.
Right. And that's what I got to tell people, like, lead generation costs money, or it costs time and money, right? And Google AdWords isn't cheap, right? It cost me about $600 a month, right, to run that Google AdWords campaign, right? And people see that $600 a month price tag and they go, whoa, I don't know that I don't want to do all that. But you do that, you put those processes in place, and then deals like this can happen, right? And not every deal is a $60,000, $70,000 flip. Some are, 20. Some, I've made less than that on a flip, right? When things don't go right. But all that to say, right, if you spend the money and put the processes in place on your marketing, right, it just opens the door for deals like this to happen.
But that deal right there paid for 10 years of your Google AdWords. So,
quick math.
I was doing math as I was looking down, but that's incredible. If you could, so there's the flipping aspect, which I'm sure you use to funnel back into your buy and hold. So maybe your next one that you're going to talk about was for the buy and hold.
We'll do a buy and hold, and so we'll talk about. I've got which buy and hold. So there was. We can talk about this 5-unit. So I've got a 5-unit. We ended up, so we found it through direct mail. It's in my partnership. It was somebody we'd mailed several times, and it was just an older gentleman who'd owned it free and clear, and then was getting to the point where he didn't want to deal with it anymore. I think he had only 3 of the units were rented, and he was trying to figure out if he was going to, put somebody back in them, or if he was just going to sell the deal. And so he called, and we went and looked at it and made him an offer. And I think he didn't take it. He passed because it wasn't high enough. We offered him $350, I believe, for a 5-unit. Yeah. And was it $350? Yeah, that sounds about right. And he passed on it. And then he ended up getting it under contract from somebody else for $350, and the deal ended up falling through. So he called us back, and I think we ended up at $320 is where we landed. Eventually, we put it under contract. We're renovating the units. Each unit is going to rent for somewhere between $700 and $900, just depending on the size. They're all 1 bed, 1 bath, but they're close to the university out here, and so and the whole area has been kind of renovated, and this one little property hasn't yet. So it's got really high value. So $320, we're going to spend 60 or 70 on the rehab. And then, somewhere between 7 and 900 per unit.
That's awesome.
We'll get on all 5.
That's great. Those are some good numbers, especially since you said it's an improving area.
It's in a great area. The values way over what we paid for it, just because, I have to put it in perspective. You can throw a rock and hit a single family I have over there that I paid 55 for, that appraised for 170.
Wow. So just like knowing your particular market has set you up in a way that you kind of know the streets, you know the neighborhoods, and you know where and where not to buy. I think that's just as valuable as any information that you share with us. It's really cool.
Right.
So that was a direct mail. And then I had another. So this lead I got was a bandit sign, and so I don't do bandit signs because they're technically illegal. But when we buy a house and we own a house, if it's on a busy street, we'll stick a sign in the front yard. So I'm only putting signs on properties that I own. I don't stick signs anywhere. And so we stuck a sign out in the front yard of a house that we own, which just said, "We buy houses, call this number." Somebody drove by, saw the sign, called us, and they had a house on an acre. They bought it. So this was a unique situation. They bought the house for like $20,000 or $30,000, and the guy rehabbed the whole place himself. And it looked great. It had some roof issues, and but it was out on an acre, just kind of far away from where they worked. They worked probably took him an hour to get to work, and his wife was kind of fed up with country life and wanted to get back to closer to where they lived. And what happened was they went and started looking at houses, found one, fell in love with it, and now they were on this time crunch. They needed to sell their house to afford this other one. They saw my sign, they called us. I went out there, I looked at it. We paid $85,000 for that house. He completely renovated it. We didn't do anything. Matter of fact, the only time I ever went to that house was the day I put it under contract. We paid $85,000 for it. We closed on it. We called our realtor. He went out there and listed it on the market, and we sold it for $130,000. Like I said, I went there one time.
Wow. There's just so many different ways to make, you said it before, there's so many different ways to make money in real estate. And the fact that you know your market like that and can essentially buy a deal and know what it's worth and not do any work and sell it for $50,000 higher. It's just like, it's.
So that's why I stopped marketing for age, because this was a very young couple. Their motivation was, wife fell in love with the house. If I don't sell my house, I can't buy this one that she loves. And so they sold it, and we had the luxury of time that they didn't have. So we just did what they would have done, which was stuck it on the market and waited for a buyer to come pay retail for it.
Amazing.
What I still can't get over, and I keep thinking about this, is you mentioned in the beginning you still hold a 9-to-5, and
yes,
you're doing all this. How the heck are you managing this all? I truly don't understand it, and I'm sure I forgot in the episode we're talking all about real estate. I forgot you still have a job. So can you explain like your schedule, I guess, and like how you're running things?
Sure. Yeah. No, I have post-COVID things are a little different now, but yeah, so let's rewind. So I was working for Walmart most of this. I've only been working for this new company since April. And so, yeah, man, what I try to do is my marketing goes out, and you can't control when people call you. People call, right? And I just have, it's a salaried job. As long as I wasn't in a meeting, no one cares if I answer the phone and take a phone call. It just takes a couple of seconds to filter a lead. And so I'd answer the phone if I could. And what I try to do when phone calls come in for leads is, I feel like what sets me apart from people here is I answer the phone. A lot of people don't. They send it to voicemail and they filter through their voicemails, right, and call back the motivated leads. Or they have a VA or somebody answer the phone, but I just answer the phone myself. A lot of the times, it's Arkansas, right? So you get like a small town community kind of feel. People want to know they're dealing with somebody who's from where they live, right? And so answering the phone, I think, sets me apart. But what I try to do on the phone is I try to set the appointment immediately. Like on that phone call, I'm setting up the appointment, and I'm trying to do it that day. Like, these people are motivated. They think, some people think this is some gimmicky thing, right? And so I try to be as professional as possible and be as quick as possible, right? You want to know how much your house is worth? I'll give you an offer today, right? And so I would go, I'd set the appointment, and I set my appointments for my lunch hour or after work, after 5 o'clock. Most people you're dealing with have jobs too, so that works out fine. And then I make the offers, and then once I make the offer, there's not much else to do, right? If it needs inspected, somebody else is going to do that. If, I can't do the title work, title company's doing that, so I don't need to do anything until I close on it. And then when I close on it, I build a spec sheet that just kind of lets my contractor know what I want him to do. I show up one time, I'll walk it with him, then he gets to work on it, and then I just check on it from time to time. So it's not super time intensive buying deals. Like I said, the things that take time are just, showing properties to tenants and all that. Everything else is just phone calls and managing people's schedules, making sure they show up and do what they're supposed to do.
Well, yeah. One of the things I just want to say, I think Rye's a question about tenants specifically. One of the things that I wanted to point out here is that you're really selling convenience. And that's what I think one of the coolest things is about your business and your niche specifically is you're selling, look, as the seller, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to do the repairs. You don't have to pay for closing. You don't have to do any of this stuff. And I'm going to take it off your hands. And I think so many people are get fed up with what's going on at their house, or they have this problem and they're just like, Henry can help me. I'm going to call him. So market, it's great.
The last person I was buying a house from, she was an older lady, and she was just like, I just don't know, how I'm going to get all this taken care of. And I was like, just take what you want and go. Like, just leave it. Like, I'll take care of it. Like,
she probably loved you.
Right. That's a benefit that I provide to people. Like, we'll get a dumpster out here. We'll take care of the rest. Like, just take what you want and you can go. It's not like when you're selling with the realtor and you got to have the place spick and span, and you don't got to get a cleaner. Like, just take your stuff. I'll take care of the rest. And it's like a weight off people's shoulders.
Wow. Awesome. Last one for me, based on, you're juggling a lot of different things here. How do you manage tenants while you have the 9 to 5 as well? Do you specifically use like a Google Voice phone, or how does that work?
Yeah, I've got 2 phones. And one is just my business phone. And tenants, man, it's, it's like with most things, like most things will take as much as you'll give it. Right. And so like, you just let people know what's okay and what's not okay. Like, if you're okay with text messages, just tell them that's how you want to be communicated with. If you're not, say, don't text me. Just put a work order in the system, right? Tenants don't care as long as when they have a need, you're taking care of it. They don't care how they communicate with you, just as long as they know whatever method you want me to communicate with you, like, as long as I know you're hearing me and that you're taking care of it, like, they don't care, man. You train them to do whatever it is that you want them to do. And for me, I let them text me, and then I make them put in work orders, right? Text messages, and I set expectations with them. Like, if you text me, I may not answer you right away. I may not answer you in a day or two, right? In my lease, it has all the turnaround times that I said I would stick to. As long as I stick to those things, everybody's happy. And, most of them are good. They fix it. Like, my expectation of my tenants, and I tell them this usually when I'm having them sign the lease, like, my expectation of you is that you pay around time. Your expectation of me should be that I provide you with a clean, comfortable, safe place to live. Like, if something's not working, tell me and I'll take care of it, right? And again, I think that makes people feel better. And then as long as I put that into practice, if they text me or send me an email, like, I'm usually pretty quick, even if it's not an emergency. Like, I want to get it fixed. I want them to know I want to get it fixed so that they're comfortable.
And you want them to know that you care too, which is, I think, important, because
right.
If they know that you care about them and you care about the condition of their property, they're going to be more likely to pay rent on time, in my opinion. Like, they just,
if you don't take care of them, then that's when you start getting the headaches, right? But if people feel comfortable that you're going to take care of them, then you get less phone calls, you get bothered less.
Cool. At the end of every show, we have a segment called The Last Drop. and it ties into our name, the Weekly Juice. But we ask all of our guests a piece of advice, a resource, a book, a tool that you use that, and this doesn't necessarily have to be for beginners, but that somebody can take along in their travels and use in their investing journey. I'm curious if you have anything specific to share.
Yeah. Yeah, I talked about it before, and I just like to reiterate it because I think it's key. Like, don't worry about all the noise. Go figure out what a good deal is and go figure out what the best method for finding a good deal is that fits your personality type. Pick one method and put it into practice, and you will find a deal. You just have to be consistent with it. Once you find that deal, man, all the other things that need to happen in order for that deal to be successful, you'll be able to get easier, right? Because people are more willing to help somebody who's already helped themselves. If you went and you found a deal, if somebody calls me today and they say, hey, I've got a deal on the line, man, how do I get it financed? I'm gonna give them bank contacts, right? Because now I know they got the hustle, they did the hard part, they found the deal. I'll give you the name of any bank that I've worked with, right? Will help you get it financed, right? If someone calls me and says, hey, I got a deal in a contract, who's going to close it for me? I'll give you my title company, right? People will work with you. All that stuff will be a whole lot easier if you've got a deal on the line than if you don't, right? Because then you're just dealing in what ifs, and nobody wants to give you all their contacts for you to call them and bug them about what if questions.
And then they'll call you again. That's the whole point.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Cool. It's been a real pleasure to have you on. If there's anything else, by the way, any other piece of advice that you feel like you left out, we would love to hear it.
Yeah.
If I'll let you answer that. If not,
yeah, no, I tell people to go along with that, right? If you don't know about different methods for finding deals, there's tons of resources. The book on real estate investing with no and low money down that Brandon Turner wrote for Bigger Pockets, right? It's a great introductory into of ways of finding deals and how to finance them. It's like a crash course in all of those methods. So I'd say check that out. Look at for people too, there's free ways to find out what a good deal is. Go on Zillow's, filter for sold comps. So only look at things that have sold in the past year or two in neighborhoods you're interested in, and look for the deals that sold for the lowest price. Right. And then go on your county records and see if those deals sold to LLCs. And if they did, those are probably investors, right? So it might give you a sense of what are investors paying for houses in neighborhoods that you're interested in. So it's just go hustle and find it, man.
Very cool. If people are in the Arkansas market or around you, or just like the content that you produce or like the episode and they want to find out more about you, is there certain ways that people can reach out to you?
Yeah, man. Best way to contact me is through Instagram. It's at Independence Realty Group on Instagram. Just reach out, shoot me a direct message. I try to answer everybody. Happy to
Instagram's pretty
chat
cool
with people, and
we find some good content on there. So. But
good.
Than that, man, thank you very much for your time. You got anything else, Raj?
No, thank you very much. As we said before, super inspired by you. Keep crushing it. Clearly you're making some noise in the market, which is awesome, and we appreciate everything you did.
You'll be at $100.
Yeah, man. I hope so. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you.
Absolutely, man.
Talk to you soon.
Have a good one.
All right. Take care.